This is a quick revision session about writing major scales. In this video, we are going to cover three categories of major scales. Major scales that start on C, major scales that use flats, and major scales that use sharps. We will cover all three categories in this video. Major scales that start on C. C major is the most popular and famous major scale because it uses only natural notes, or as some explain it, as the white notes on the keyboard. You can see there a C major scale. It has all the notes that are natural. On a keyboard, it looks like this. We can identify a pattern from this that can help us to write all the different types of major scales that start on C. For example, the C sharp major scale is the same as C, but the notes are a step or a semitone higher. So here is a C major scale. If I raise each note in the C major scale by a step or a semitone, I end up with the C sharp major scale, and you can see that all the notes in the C sharp major scale are sharp. This can actually help us to identify a theory that as major scales that start on C have all or nothing. This means that if the C major scale, or the first note, is a natural, all the other notes will be natural as well. If it's a C sharp major scale, the tonic or the C is sharp, all the other notes will be sharp as well. Let's see if the pattern applies with C flat major. There's C major, all the notes are natural. If I lower each note in the C major scale by a semitone, I end up with C flat major, and you can see that all the notes in the C flat major scale are flat. So this confirms our theory that if a major scale starts on C, it has all or nothing, which means that the notes in the scale will reflect the tonic or the starting note. C major starts on a natural note, so all the notes will be natural. C sharp major starts on a sharp note, so all the sharp notes will be sharp. And C flat major starts on a flat note, so all the notes will be flat. So you can remember that if you're going to write a major scale that starts on C, it will have all or nothing. And you can see the summary appearing on the screen now. Major scales that use sharps. We want to try and maintain the major scale flavour or tone colour, but starting on a different note, we find that some scales need to use sharps to maintain that specific sound. And we're going to look at that in this section. If we worked out all the major scales using the tone or semitone recipe which we discussed in an earlier session, we will find that major scales have different combinations of sharps and natural notes in them. If we put them in order, you end up with a grid like this. You can see that C major has 0 sharps and flats. G major has 1 sharp, which is an F sharp. D major has 2 sharps, which is an F sharp and C sharp. A major has 3 sharps, which is F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. Can you see a pattern emerging here? Each scale is building upon the sharps that have appeared in the previous scale. They are adding 1 new sharp each time. This means the sharps appear in an order that we call the order of sharps. A great way to remember an order is to put it into a sentence that makes sense. So the first sharp is an F sharp, the second sharp is a C sharp, third sharp is a G sharp, and so on. We use the saying, Father Charles goes down and ends battle. This helps us to remember the order in which the sharps appear. A major scale that uses 1 sharp, the note will always be F sharp. If it uses 2 sharps, it'll be F sharp and C sharp. 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, and so on. So how do you use this to write out a major scale? Step 1 is to write out all the letters or notes in the scale, making sure you don't leave any note out or use one twice. We're going to write E major scale. Second step is to sharpen the second last note. So D becomes D sharp. Step 3 is to add the sharps from the order of sharps and stop when you get to that second last note which you have already sharpened. So we're going to go Father, Charles, goes, D. We've already done the D sharp, so we stop. And there's our answer. E major has 4 sharps in it. Let's try it again. Step 1, write out all the letter notes. And this time we're going to use D major. So there's D to D. Second step is to sharpen the second last note. So C becomes C sharp. Third step is to add the sharps from the order and stop when we get to the second last note, in this case the C sharp. So Father, Cha. We've already done the C, it's become C sharp, and there's our answer. The D major scale has 2 sharps in it. This method always works, as you can see here with A major. Sharpen the second last note and walk up the order of sharps until we get to that second last note. Father, Charles, G. We've already done it. B major. Sharpen the second last note, A sharp. Now we add the sharps from the order. Father, Charles, goes, down. We've already done the A, so we stop. There's a B major scale. Let's do an F sharp major scale. Sharpen the second last note. Father, Charles, goes, down, and we've already done the E. Oh, with the F sharp, don't forget that once we've gone through that order, we need to sharpen the last note so it matches the first note. Major scales that use flats. When you try and maintain the major scale flavour again, starting on different notes, we find that some scales need to use flats to help to maintain that specific sound. Like the order of sharps, we find that there's an order of flats. And it appears when we use the tone, semitone recipe that we talked about in a previous session, building major scales starting on different notes and coming up with this grid. You can see that C major scale here has 0 sharps and flats, and F major scale has 1 flat, which is a B flat. B flat major scale has 2 flats, which is B flat and E flat. E flat major scale has 3 flats, which is B flat, E flat and A flat. And you can see yet again there's another pattern appearing. We are building upon the flats that have previously appeared in the major scale before. So like the order of sharps, we find that there is an order of flats. And we can use this to help us write major scales. And the order of flats is the same as the order of sharps, except it's backwards. So the order of sharps is Father Charles goes down and ends battle. The order of flats is battle ends and down goes Charles' father. So we can use the same saying to identify the order of sharps and the order of flats. So, how do we do that and apply that to writing a major scale? Step 1, write out the letters, making sure that we don't leave any out or use any twice. We're going to do B flat major. Step 2 is we flatten the 4th note of the scale. So E becomes E flat. Step 3 is we add the flats from the order of flats and stop when we get to the 4th note that we've already flattened. So, battle, we've already done it. The final thing to do is make sure that the 8th note, which is the octave above the tonic, reflects the same as the first note. So we need to add a flat to this as well, because we need to make sure that our major scale starts and finishes on the same note. And there's my answer. B flat major has 2 flats in it, B flat and E flat. Let's try it again. Let's write out all the notes again, making sure that we don't leave any out or use any twice. We're going to do a D flat major scale this time. So we write D to D. Step 2 is we're going to flatten the fourth note, which is G. G becomes G flat. Step 3, now we add the flats from the order of flats and stop when you get to the fourth note, which we've already flattened. Battle, ends, and, down, go. We've already done the G flat. Now we need to make sure that our eighth note looks the same as our first note, so we flatten that too, because we need to start and finish our major scales on the same note. And voila, there's our answer. D flat major has 5 flats in it. This method always works. An A flat major scale, we write out A to A, we flatten the fourth note, we add the flats from the order. Battle, ends, and D. We've already done the D flat, and now we make the eighth note, the A, the same as the first note. It's always important that our major scale starts and finishes on the same note. Let's try it one more time. G flat major. We write G to G. We flatten the fourth note. We now add the flats from the order. Battle, ends, and, down, goes, chuck. We've already done it. And we finish. Now we just make sure that the eighth note looks the same as the first note, and we've written a G flat major scale. It's that simple. There is one special major scale that uses flats, which is F major. This is special because it's what I call the indie scale because it's independent. It stands alone. It's the only major scale to use flats that doesn't have a flat in its name. And you can use exactly the same process for flats to write it out. So we write F to F. We flatten the fourth note, which is step 2. B becomes B flat. And step 3, we add the flats from the order of flats and stop when we get to the fourth note. But this time, we don't actually have to add any others. F only has a B flat in it. And that's what makes it special. It's the only scale to use flats that doesn't have a flat in its name. So it stands alone. It's the only major scale that uses flats that doesn't have a flat in its name. It's independent. It stands alone. It's the only one. And I keep saying this because this can help us to remember how many flats that it has in it. An F major scale is the only one because it has one flat. So in summary, there are 3 types or categories of major scales. 1, major scales that start on C. They will have all or nothing. 2, major scales that use flats. They will have a flat in their name, except for F, which is the indie scale, and major scales that uses sharps. Everything else. So when we're writing major scales, we need to ask ourselves which category the scale falls into and then use the appropriate method. I hope this video has helped you to understand the concepts better and you can explore writing major scales quite easily. Thanks for listening.